Good evening. This is Defacto Review, a weekly analysis of Mongolia's latest political, economic, and social issues by economist and columnist Mr. Jargalsaikhan.
Good evening.
And I'll be your host, Tikshirult. Today's topics are on the opening of the Gashuunsukhait Railroad, the Chinese speaker's visit to Mongolia, and also the revision on the legislation on foreign investment. Chairman of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress of the People's Republic of China, D.Jargalsaikhan, paid an official visit to Mongolia between September 10th and the 12th at the invitation of the chairman of the Great State Jargal. During his 3-day official visit, China's top legislator met with Mongolian President Khurelsukh and Prime Minister Oyun-Irten and held official talks with his counterpart, Zandenshtar. At the end of the meeting, Mr. Zandenshtar was invited to pay a visit to China at his convenience. So this visit comes at the tail end of a long summer of diplomatic visits both to and from Mongolia. And regarding the outcomes of this visit, what economic impacts should we expect to see in the future?
Indeed, we had so many visits from Mongolia to Mongolia, and it happened after Vladivostok event where Prime Minister Oyun-Irten went to Vladivostok, and also this Mr. D.Jargalsaikhan went there. And after that Vladivostok meeting, this meeting happening in Mongolia. Well, first of all, before we talk about the economic result of this particular visit, we should understand that the National People's Congress of People's Republic of China is the legislative body of China, highest decision-making body, and it is convening every 5 years, and it has some 3,000 members. 2,000 of them are representing proportionally the population of China. And every time they change how many people there are, one legislator representing, and the last one was every 700,000 people of Chinese people were represented by one National People's Congress member. And also, quite especially, this Congress is also represented by military. China has one of the largest, if not the largest military, 2 million people force, and they are also represented in the parliament. And because parliament gets together once for 5 years, in between them this standing committee is running the show. And this standing committee is consisting of 175 members, and every 2 months they get together for 1 week. So this person, Mr. D.Jargalsaikhan, is an equivalent of our speaker. That's why this visit, from that perspective, is important for Mongolia. And once he is not the executive branch of the power, legislative power, so whatever we have agreed with him is not necessarily his agreement. That's why, first of all, what we have requested. We can only request, and we have requested several things. He promised to pay particular attention, special attention, and to help. That's what is his answer. So that's why whatever they have agreed, it doesn't mean that it will be automatically completed. But however, it's important for for us, our agreement with China to be approved by the Chinese parliament. So on trade, coal is the most important commodity, and 1/3 of our export, and also the same size in our budget. So we have requested them to have a long-term agreement for quota even, about 40 to 70 million tons a year coal to be exported to China until the end of 2025. That was the major request we made. And also another thing we have requested was to extend the currency swap agreement. And a very interesting proposition, he said, our speaker asked him to discount the debt. That meaning probably to forgive the interest rate of that swap agreement. We have a $2.5 million swap agreement, equivalent of swap agreement with China, which basically means that we will have it in a yuan account, they will have a tugrik account, so we will swap using that. So again, it's already happening, this extension several times, and now they have requested again. Whether it is good or not, that's a separate issue. The third thing we requested Mr. Janshua is, since we have new railway connection in Gashuunsukhait, we made a railway recently that was opened from Tavantolgoi, the major coal mine, to the southern border. Since there is a new connection, we need to update 1955 cross-border railway agreement with China. That's first we have asked. Also, there is an intergovernmental agreement on railway transit cooperation signed by two countries in 2014. But that agreement is to be ratified by the Chinese Congress. So that's the request. The third one was about the construction of the highway, also Asian highway, from Zamingud to Atambulag. So one of the mega projects we have talked. And also certainly talked about the gas line through Mongolia from Russia to China. And as you said, in terms of cooperation, our speaker was invited at the convenience time for him to China for paying an official visit, not just working visit, an official visit. It's the highest highest rank of visits, the official visits that our speaker will pay there. And very interestingly, there was a remark in Chinese media that they have exchanged opinions on international relations issues of the interests by each side. So that's what this trip is about. And as I said earlier, Mr. Janshua expressed that he will give special attention to all these requests by Mongolian side and will support. So hopefully that's a short brief of this visit. Again, this visit is not by function. This person is not a signature side. It is an agreement to be approved by the National People's Congress of China.
Mm-hmm. So that actually ties in perfectly to our second topic.
Yes,
so
it is.
Let's move on to our second topic. A heavy-duty rail line connecting Tavantolgoi and Gashuunsukhait was finally put into operation last week, ending a decade-long wait for the crossing. So Gashuunsukhait is the land port between Mongolia and China. The commissioning ceremony of the railway was held at Tavantolgoi Station, which is in Togttisom of Umunroamik. It was attended by President Hurulsukh, Minister of Road and Transport Development Byamtsogt, Minister of Mining and Heavy Industry Qambatar, Minister of Economy and Development Hurulbatar, members of parliament, and other local officials. President Hurulsukh emphasized the fact that the railway was built by Mongolians and is the first railway that is 100% owned by Mongolia, making the first transportation on the newly commissioned runway, the first freight train left for the Tavantolgoi to Gashuunsukhait route. So can you explain to our viewers why this project was so long awaited and why it is such a big deal for us?
There is a very good question. I can share some history of this railways. Before that, some additional new description of the project. This is a 233.6 kilometers, 233.6 kilometers long line. Mm-hmm. Actually, it's a total 321 kilometers because it has 2 stations and 6 crossings. Mm-hmm. That's why additionally some more, almost 90 kilometers longer than the physical distance between 2 points. Mm-hmm. And it can carry from 30 to 50 million tons of coking coal, and in that way it can increase 2 or 3 times our total transport to Chinese border. And plus it also reducing the cost almost 4 times from $47 per ton, it will be around $12 per ton. Substantial reduction, of course, our cost. More than that, this railway line will give us new access to international market. Particularly, it will go. We used to have now only Tianjin connection, Tianjin port. Now with this railway, we go another Chinese ports like Huanghua, Tianjin as well, Qingdao, and Jinzhou.
So that opens up possibilities for different exports that's beyond China as well.
Yes, in particular, the coking coal is a relatively very much value-added product, and it's used for steel production. And there are many other countries that also buying steel, the coking coal from other countries, from Australia, for example. So that means we are open to go to Vietnam, India, etc. Which also, this very access gives also a good opportunity for Mongolian exporters of coal, not only coal, maybe copper, to compete with cheaper price, as they have a substantial economy of cost for transport when you go by railways. The other thing, an interesting fact was a Chinese Minister of Commerce made statistics in which I find that the bilateral trade volume Mongolia and China, between Mongolia and China, hit $9.1 billion in 2021, 35% year-on-year raise. So it's always interesting to compare our statistics with Chinese so that we have more realistic picture. And this railway,
that the Mongolian media reported that the costs went from $47 per ton for coal, which we were talking about earlier, to 12 tons. But if you contrast that with the Chinese media, it said the cost went from $32 per ton down to $8 per ton. So there's some discrepancy in the numbers. So
yeah, Mongolians now sell all the coal at the site of mine itself. And there's a very much confusing statistics to that extent that we are missing 2 million tons of coal. So it is a matter of governance. The Prime Minister raised the issue. He finds it's a corruption issue, and we will see what will be the result of that investigation, which is going on. So that's why it's very important to compare our statistics with the Chinese one. This railway has also a certain social economic impact because first it's drastically reduced pasture destruction, dust, noise, air and soil pollution, and also it substantially reduced the number of traffic accidents, what's happening by trucks on this road. And it will make, of course, a road safer. And most importantly, it will create 2,000 permanent jobs who will take care of this railway transportation. It's new culture, it is new villages coming. And so it also, just by very basic estimate, it will support the annual tax to the government's coffin. It is around $44 million tax in different form. And it will increase also Tavantolgoi mining network by 2 or 3 times total mining volume. So altogether, it's a lot has economic impact on that. On your question about why is it happening now, that's a very interesting story. Because now 12 years ago, the company which owns a part of Tavantolgoi, which is called MMC, that company got 12 years ago everything, money, feasibility study. They were supported by Hong Kong Stock Exchange, And then suddenly a political issue comes when the permission they needed to get from the Minister of Transport. And that time, our ex-president Tavantolgoi was Minister for Road Transportation. He completely refused. And more than that, he that time also made himself a documentary film where he shows how dangerous is this if we have connected with China by the railway of Chinese gauge. Because Mongolia has a wider, 85 millimeters wider gauge than the Chinese. Chinese is an international one, but Mongolia has the Russian railway gauge. So he said, as soon as if we will make the same narrow gauge, then Chinese tanks will come. That was the documentary he was completely. And even also the parliament made special law which allows industrial railways or export-oriented railways can be of narrow gauge. But both were neglected recently when the President Tavantolgoi became president, and then suddenly very quick decisions come to complete this railway. Then even without any tender, one company, Bodhi International, was selected by the president, and everything related to that contract was kind of state secret. We don't know much really about what is exact cost and what is the conditions. I was told, for example, they will get the investment get back through selling coal. Which part, how, we don't know yet. But we know one thing. Tavantolgoi company, Ertnis Tavantolgoi made Tavantolgoi Railway, which will own 66% of this new railway. By the way, it's not only the new railway to the southern border, but also another railway to the eastern port, Mongolian port Saint-Shant, which will go to another Chinese port. So somehow Tavantolgoi Railway will have only 66%. We don't know who will own this 36% of this railway. It looks like Bodhi International, who made this railway. So it's a long story. At the end, we lost a lot value. We have even lives. Many drivers had accidents, for example.
Regarding that, would this decision, how does this affect the drivers that transport coal through the border every day? I mean, it will decrease, but will that change a lot of these people's lives, do you think?
First of all, they would not need 15,000 trucks currently around there. At least 3 years ago I was there and I saw the terrible conditions where the truck drivers live at the border. First of all, they bring from Tavantolgoi the coal to a place called Jargal. And then from Jargal they get together in one place, piled, all the coal, the tons of coals, I would say a mountain of coals. Then it was reshifted again to Chinese border. So this is a substantial change. Probably there will be way less truck drivers because the road will be still there. Probably at the beginning some 30% will be at least on that road. And with that lower amount of drivers, the conditions will be better, I guess. But however, what we know about the railway is from the opening ceremony, the total cost was $1.3 billion, and many domestic subcontractors participate in the project, and there are some 500 plus local companies have been working on that, including military. So that's what we know so far.
So let's move on to our third topic. Our third topic deals with the revision of the legislation on foreign investment. The Ministry of Justice and Internal Affairs unveiled the draft revision of the legislation on foreign investment, which is a key part of the new revival policy and the Vision 2050 long-term strategy for the development of Mongolia. A dialogue was held on the legal issues surrounding foreign investment, and the minister, Mr. Nyambatar, opened the conference with a pledge to help facilitate the solving of legal issues that foreign investors may face in Mongolia. So what does this revision mean for the future of foreign investment in Mongolia? Does this create a more welcoming environment for investments?
It is. The draft is ready from the government side, and it will be discussed at the end of this year, because Mongolia needs so much foreign direct investment, because we have already limit by attracting from international market through bonds and other securities. So all the thing now, we need to re-attract foreign direct investment if we want to boost the economy, because domestically these resources are limited. But for inviting more foreign direct investment, they need to change law. Some laws are, really confusing. Originally in 1993, the first law about foreign investment law, the name was Foreign Investment Law. It required only $10,000 to be a foreign investment company. And the law has not specified by how many people. So that's why 10 Vietnamese came and each put $1,000, and it's already a foreign direct investment company. Mm-hmm. So there was some other flaw, etc. Not in substantial sector. We had suddenly foreign, out of nowhere companies, and which local companies could do, etc. So there were a lot of critics about that law, and which after 10 years, almost 20 years, this law is changed. Now instead of foreign direct investment, the law in 2013 is called investment law. Make no difference between domestic investor or international investor. And which is pity, because foreign investment is investment that is coming from outside to the country. It's one legal, different story. But the domestic companies' investment is a domestic investment. So they are somehow confusing. There was a certain lobby, I remember. Now, according to that investment law, $100,000 is required to be qualified as a foreign direct investment or foreign company. So that means Mongolians at least must have 20,000 or 20% of the company, which was still a high requirement for joint venture company. Yes. And the other thing was with the new law, now already old, it's 10 years old already, the registration went to state registry. And nobody was making statistics this before about exact foreign direct investment amount. So that's why they need to change. But there are many other things why they need to change the foreign investment law, and I hope it is in the draft. For example, foreign direct investment law, or investment law, whatever it is called, exempting from certain taxes. But however, this is not reflected in the general taxation law. So that's why many foreign companies are not exempted, though in one law is written, the other law it's conflicting. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason was all legal disputes for all these years took so long time. Years. There was a record case. One case took 16 years to be solved. So legal disputes in Mongolia so much, staying longer that many Mongolian companies even now registering their companies in Singapore, and in the case of arbitration, they go under the Singapore law. So really, Mongolia needs to change this law. And plus, there were certain bad practices. One of them was mentioned again by Mr. Nyambatar. It is the case of Japanese investor who was falsely accused with drug. Then he had to leave the country after some months of in jail. The court found there's no reason to put him into the jail. And that land he had, his company had, Suruga, had was taken by ex-government officials, including the head of GIA, General Intelligence Agency, General Prosecutor, as it was stated by the Minister Nyambatra. So in this environment, for Mongolia, it is not easy to attract foreign direct investment today immediately. Even they change better law. We need to have, not to have a foreign direct investment, you have to create trust. That's a lot to go now.
That's a challenge as well, right? Because we've had other issues, including the case with Boris Johnson's brother.
Yeah, which is going on now, Max Johnson.
Still going on.
So there's several cases, and two of them, you and just including you, what you have mentioned. Hopefully, the positive solution of the truth. I mean, it is not a penalty issue, but the truth should prevail. If they can show it, there will be substantial steps towards to foreign investors to trust in Mongolian legal system.
That is all for this week. This has been De Facto Review, a weekly analysis of Mongolia's latest political, economic, and social issues by economist and columnist Mr. Jargalsaikhan.
Thank you very much for staying with us. See you next week.